Hi, Mochismo Eugene. Welcome to another video from Exit Strategy. Please like, subscribe, share. Give this video a thumbs up. If you found it beneficial, please pass it on. I would appreciate that. I told you guys I would talk about the unaliving of individuals at the hands of their significant other, their intimate partners, and just in general, the people closest to them. You know, when something like this happens, you don't want to suspect the person that's supposed to care the most for them is the one that is guilty of taking their existence away. And so there's never in my lifetime, and I know we have access to the World Wide Web, we're seeing all these tragedies and these unfortunate situations happen on a grand scale, and it's kind of hard to miss any of it, whether you are cut off to the world of television, internet, and all of that. Some way or another you hear about it, whether somebody's sitting next to you on their electronic device, airing it out, talking about, did you hear what happened to Diddy? Did you hear what happened to R. Kelly? Did you hear what happened with Epstein? Did you hear what happened with this doctor that, molested these gymnasts for many, many years, and they're just now finding out? These are stories that when we hear them, the general public tends to do a couple of things. They yak about it. We reiterate it to everybody who has an ear. It distracts us from our own life. It doesn't cause us to introspect and value life in a way that we really should, because every day is a blessing. It doesn't cause us to grieve long. We more or less sensationalize it because it's been sensationalized to us. So we pass the baton. It's a mimicry of what we see as a way of life. And I don't want to say, so therefore we normalize it. I was telling somebody this, that funerals and people don't mourn like they used to. We talk about a tragedy. We don't mourn about a tragedy. And I think in a big way, narcissists have trained us to downplay tragedy. They have trained us to the point where we don't even talk about tragedies. We are not in tune with the fact that our world is so dark and demonic until you could walk out your door under the cover of darkness and have someone waiting and lurking for you in the shadows. And so this is on a grand scale. There's a lot of predatory nature in mankind. There is a lot of satanic agendas, because we're living in a world where it's so liberated, as one would say. Do what feels good to you. And then they will emphasize, as long as you're not hurting anyone else. Okay, that is a door that is opened for any and everyone to come through. And what I mean by that is to each and everyone's perception and comprehension. What does that really mean? As long as you're not hurting anyone else. Some things seemingly don't affect or hurt anyone else, but if you allow a person to do certain things to a strong degree, unchecked, this encourages them to continue to up the ante. This, and especially we're talking about narcissists here specifically, because the nature of a narcissist is getting away with something for the sheer pleasure of leaving the victims helpless and hopeless, getting a rise out of other people's pain. And so the unaliving is happening a lot. It's happening a lot in ways that I've never known before. I mean, Here or there you had a situation, but the laws that govern our world and the laws that govern our heart, the sacred spiritual laws that govern our heart and our conscience, all the way down to the soul, there was just things that we would just not do. Harming someone would be the last thing. Helping somebody would be the first thing. And now we're living in an era that is very, very apparent that it's about help yourself. Help yourself first. Let them find their way. And I know in a big way, a lot of times people have to find their own way. But if you're not a conduit and you're not a vessel that's being used by God that can influence people for the good and not sit there and allow their filthy facade to go unchecked and more or less encourage them to do the thing that they're doing, cheerleading for them. This is what increases a person's confidence, their boldness to continue to behave badly. And this is not talking about perfect man or woman. This is just talking about things that, with regards to the human nature, if we continue to be left to ourselves to devise all these wicked trickery, assaults on people, whether it's behind closed doors, in the shadows or not, it's just the nature of man just becomes bolder and egotistical and more arrogant. And to the point where the laws that are supposed to govern our heart and spiritually govern our life don't. So the narcissist will deliberately come into your life to leave it in shambles. And if any of you are listening to me right now and you're in a situation where you just believe that it's going to work out, but you know that this is a narcissist that you're living with, start convincing yourself of the truth and stop convincing yourself of the lie. Because a lot of us, we convinced ourselves of that lie that it would work itself out. We thought that we were strong enough to make that relationship work because this person may have lost their way. They may have grew up in a situation where they were abused. They grew up in a situation where they were neglected, abandoned, left alone. And now you're dealing with a grown ass adult that, with all the empathy in the world, is not going to bring them to a change. If they're a narcissist, it's not going to bring about the change that you're looking for. So I definitely wouldn't hold my breath on that. And if you've seen a case where a narcissist has changed for the better of mankind, do comment. And again, don't convince yourself of the lie. And even if you're with a narcissist and they changed to a strong degree as far as the eye can see, that is probably as far as it gets, as far as your eye can see. That's all the change that has occurred, because they have changed the way they do business with you. They have changed their manipulative tactic to give you that illusion. That's the only time that they'll switch up and change their ways. They'll change the way that they manipulate you. So they go from bad to worse. And if they have you under the illusion that they have been wrong, they will say what you want to hear, and they will give you an illusion that they're going through the ritual of doing better. And like I say, as far as your eye can see, you're able to check that off. You're able to check off progress. But I'll tell you what they're actually doing. They're showing you progress in your face, but they're making you pay interest out of your sight. You just haven't discovered it yet. And this is the hair-raising moment when you do find out that you gave them another go. This further insults your intelligence when you find out. It further puts you in despair, and it further puts you in depression and isolation. So when, as before, you knew and the writing was on the wall, and you had a little bit of strength that you could have mustered and distanced yourself and exited that situation, you held out. And so now you're further behind, and your despair is keeping you further and further isolated from speaking, telling people about this situation. And I've gotten comments, beautiful comments, that are sad at the same time and unfortunate, but they're beautiful in the way that subscribers and commenters they're just letting it out. They're just talking about, had a subscriber talk about she was with the narcissist and she had actually invested in witchcraft. And had one young lady said she had actually tried to cast spell on exes to make them want her back, knowing all the time that they didn't want her. And something to that effect. So when people are so transparent to tell you in comments here, not just to me, but they're talking to the world and anyone who's reading, that, yeah, we played the fool more than one time. But the more and more and more we look at the truth for what it is, we know that it is the empathy in us that caused us to do that. We're not wrong for that. But knowing what we know, we have to come to a crossroads and decide, am I going to continue to have my life wasted and taken for granted until one day I'm going to wake up and I'm only going to have a few years left in my life worth salvaging, if at all they're salvageable? And these are hard questions you have to have with yourself. You have to have a conversation with yourself. But that isolation has to happen. You can't sit down in the dinner table or in a meet up with your girlfriends and have these conversations. You cannot, even though they may understand, they may seemingly connect with everything you're saying, you must not find your answers in other people and their advice. Even listening to us, this is advantageous because you can sit in the comforts of your home, in your car, at work, at your desk with your earphones on, and you can listen to us content creators. We can't see you and you can see us. But it's not about seeing us, it's about listening to us. A lot of times when you got those girlfriends, they're visually in front of you. And so what you're doing, you're taking cues from their body language. They're looking at you and you're looking at them. And let's say, for example, they are narcissists or borderline personality disorder, and they have a deceitful heart. What advice they're giving you is leverage for them to either get in with your man, if they haven't already been sleeping with your man, take that information and go and tell their other friends one or two things or multiple things, or they will give you advice that purposely keeps you from healing, and they will actually further insult you as a victim, and they will re-traumatize you, telling you, running guilt trips like, girl, you should have known better. Guys don't do these meetups. I wish that we would. I wish that we would meet up in a way where it's few words being spoken, sharing our experiences, but more or less just having the camaraderie to just meet up and link up and just do healthy, happy things amongst men. That would be a beautiful thing. And I believe it's going to happen in some point in time in life, but it's going to be a slow crawl. And back to the initial point of this video, the unaliving of people is so disturbing that you don't want to continue to stay connected to entities that are toxic and just draining, because you may wake up dead one day. And I know that is a word that the internet doesn't like us to use, but the unaliving of someone just because you they've chosen not to want to be involved with you anymore, or for greed, or because they're afraid of their little dirty secret double life facade being exposed. And this is the pettiest of reasons to take someone's existence, because they are going to tell the truth about you. The truth will set you free. The truth entraps the narcissist because they're running from it. So if you've gotten that distance from a narcissist and they're gone, don't beg them back. Don't go out of your way to try to reunite that, because that is your calling card. That is your blessing. That being said, bless.